Hi everyone, my name's Melanie Newman and welcome to our grooming channel. Our guest today is Jamie the Bichon. He is a 13-year-old Bichon and today I'm going to share with you how I trim him. So I trim him in a modified Bichon trim because he is older, so it is more like a pet trim, but I'll share with you all my little tips. So let's just get straight into it. I have already bathed and dried him, so I've bathed him in our new puppy collection, and I know he's not a puppy, but I'm absolutely obsessed with this collection. It's beautiful. So I've already bathed and dried him. I've got out all his knots and tangles using my slicker brush and a wide tooth comb, as well as a fine tooth comb. So I use a fine tooth comb to make sure I've separated all that coat for when I've clipped him, because I can't clip him with any knots in his coat. I've also pre-done his nails, I've clipped out his pads and his private areas. I'm going to be clipping Jamie today, so I'm using my Oster 3000 Eyes. They're a cordless clipper. These are my favourite clippers. These are what I use every day. I'm also using a wide tooth snap-on comb with a 30 blade underneath, and the length I'm doing on his body is 5/8 or 16 millimeters. I'm going to begin by clipping from his wither down towards his tail. So I'm going to start by clipping his top line. Once I've clipped his top line, I'm then going to go down and around his rib cage and just scooping out his flank area. So I'm not going hard in with the clippers, I'm coming in and just skimming outwards. Once I've clipped his rib cage, I'm going to pull his ear over his head and turn his head slightly, and I'm going to clip probably from the point of his shoulder and then just skim off, because I'm going to actually scissor his legs later. And I want nice straight parallel lines from his front view. It's just coming straight off. So I'm not coming in hard with the clippers, I'm just coming in and then straight down his leg. Coming in and straight down. And then that will match in with our clipper work on our rib cage and our top line. And our other side. So just following down our top line and around our rib cage, skimming over our flank area. So coming off our ribs and then just skimming it. And then moving his ear out of the way and coming off his shoulder and straight down. And then we're blending in where we've clipped his rib cage, so it all blends in really nicely. From our front profile, we want nice parallel straight legs. So I'm just going to cross-check my clipper work and then come off that shoulder and straight down that leg. So if he had really full legs, we would just be skimming over those legs. And the other one, We are going to be doing the same with the rear as we did with the front. So turning on our clippers and then just skimming straight off. So we've got a nice straight leg. And when he moves away from us, so when he's walking away from us, that he's not going to look like he's got bowed legs. It's going to be nice and straight. And his other side. Just coming straight off, so just skimming off anything that's hanging over around his knee area. And just blending those transitional lines from where we clipped his top line in. Oh, he wants to have a seat, that's okay. As I clip around his rear, I'm just going to follow the natural curve of his body because a bichon should appear round. So if I just follow his natural curve, it will just appear to be round. And if I wanted to go shorter, we can go in reverse with our clippers. And then just blend it all in. I prefer his chest area quite short, and I prefer it really short when we're heading into that jawline. So I'm actually going to come up in reverse and then flick it out once I hit his jawline. And then go with the direction and just blending all that in. And skimming off in the front of his front leg. So this will cut down our scissor work with our, using our blade to just skim over those legs. And we can keep going over the area just to make sure we've got everything. To clip his underline, I'm going to gently hold his two paws and lift him up. And I'm going to go against the direction of his coat because I like this area nice and short, especially when I take him walking with the wet grass. So it's nice and neat and tidy. And then blend it in by going with the direction. And gently pop him down. Good boy, buddy. If your dog won't allow you to hold him up by his front paws, another way is to gently hold his front paw up and just stretching his leg out in front of him. And then just coming in with your clippers. And it does exactly the same thing. So going against and with, just to blend it in. I'm going to blend in front of his two front legs. So just gently coming in with my clippers, and it doesn't really matter if he stands or if he sits for this either. So just making that all neat and tidy in front of his front legs. I'm just going to give his body one more go over with the clippers, so making sure I've got all those little bits of tufts of hair. going to clip inside his back leg, so that will minimise the amount of scissoring I'm doing. So I'm just gently holding up his opposite foot and switch on my clippers and just gently clip out any little bits of hair. And his other leg. I have finished clipping his entire body, so I may need to go back over it later, but I think I've got most of the hair nice and even. So I'm going to begin now scissoring his legs. So the scissors I'm using today is a pair of Blacksmith P&W curves. So these are a 7.5 scissor. I'm also going to be using a pair of Groom Tech. These are a 8-inch scissor, so these are quite long. If you're not comfortable with using longer scissors, you can drop down to a 7-inch. And I absolutely love these. I use these on a lot of my legs when I scissor. So these are a 28 tooth P&W blender, and these are a 7.5 as well. So these are really good for blending in that transitional line for where we've clipped and making that scissor work look nice and smooth and polished. I'm going to begin by just gently combing down his hair on his front legs, and I'm using my fine tooth comb, so this will separate the coat really, really well. And using my curved scissors and gently putting them on a 45-degree angle, I'm just going to gently go around the base of that foot. And I've clipped out his pad, so I won't really need to pick up that foot to trim it. And the back of his front foot. And I just want to minimise the amount of hair that is actually touching the ground. So that's the end goal. And I'm just using the tips to work around those feet. And I'm going to continue this process on each foot. Once we've trimmed all 4 paws, we are now going to scissor his legs. So the shape that we want to achieve is a cylinder shape, so nice and round, and we want to come straight off that shoulder as well, so nice round full legs. With our straight scissors, we are just going to come straight off that shoulder and straight down, and just working the scissor around that leg to create that round cylinder shape as well. And this is just the outside of the front leg. So it's nice and straight off that shoulder. When scissoring out the inside of the front leg, what I like to do is just gently hold out their arm in front of them so they're nice and relaxed. Comb out anything that we're going to scissor off. So we want to scissor in a nice straight line, and we want to scissor towards the middle of our dog's chest, so towards that prosternum. We don't want to scissor towards the underarm of our dog because this will make little holes underneath that area. So once we've combed everything into place, Using our straights, just coming straight up towards the middle of our dog. We can cross check by combing everything out again. And then just gently place his leg back. And let's not forget the back of our front leg. So just combing everything up and using our straights just to come straight down. And then into that foot that we've scissored. We would like the same width throughout our front leg, so from the top of our leg down to the bottom. Just going to comb everything back up and pull everything out. And using my coat conditioning spray that keeps it all in place for when we're going to scissor. And then using my blenders, I'm just gently rounding those edges off. I'm not cutting any length off, I'm just rounding everything into itself. And the front of our front leg. So making sure everything's nice and round. And to scissor the inside of the front leg, I'm just going to lift the opposite leg and just scissor everything into nice round curves. And I still want the same width. I'm then going to just comb up where our clipper work was, our transitional line, so our clipper work into our scissor work. Combed all that up, and I'm just going to smooth it out with the blenders. So any little bits of hair sticking out that the clippers have missed, I'm just going to scissor them off. And we are going to repeat the process on the other leg. We are just going to tidy up in between his front legs. We're just combing that through. And with our blenders, just scissoring off any little tufts of hair. We are now moving on to our back legs, and the process is really similar to the front legs. So we want nice straight parallel lines. So anything hanging outwards, we are going to scissor off. So we're going to comb everything up and out with our fine tooth comb, and then using our straights, just scissoring anything that's sticking out off. Remembering earlier we clipped out in between the back legs, we are just going to brush all that out or comb all that out, and then using our straights, just coming straight down, just scissoring off anything that's hanging over, anything that the clippers have missed. And again, we would like the same width with the leg, so we don't want big hocks or a really big bum. We just want the same width throughout this whole leg. Remember that we've clipped the back of his back leg earlier. We're just going to tidy up this nice curve, and we're going to use our blenders for that. So just combing everything upwards and pulling everything out, and I'm just going to spray it a little bit with the coat conditioning spray, so this actually keeps it in place for when I'm scissoring. So I'm just neatening up anything that's sticking out. So I'm blending in the clipper work and just making sure it's nice and smooth, and I get this nice little curve happening, so everything's nice and round. And I'm just going to comb up around his little bottom, and with my blenders just blend in where I've clipped him nice and short to where I'm keeping it a little bit longer. I would like to then blend in this nice swoop that's coming off his rear end into that hock hair. So I'm going to gently comb it up again with my fine tooth comb, and then with my blenders just use them to scoop out that area. And then I'm just going to round off the hock area into where we've done a little bit of a scoop out, and moving on to the front of the back leg, so where his knee is. We are not going to take off much hair because he doesn't have a lot to take off, so I'm just actually going to tip that area and try and create a little knee. Sorry buddy, hang on. And just tidy up in that flank area. And any little bits of hair we've missed. Just give it one quick check with the comb. Good boy, buddy. And repeating the Once I've finished his little body, we're moving onto his head, onto his sweet, sweet face. So I just need to scissor out in front of his eyes. So I'm actually going to use a pair of P&W thinners, and these are a 65 tooth 7.5 in length, but I mostly just use the tip of these and just gently placing them up into the corner of the eye and just gently scissoring that out. And I prefer to use thinners with his face because he is that little bit older, so his hair is a little bit thinner, and if I shave it out it actually looks too much. So I like a nice soft blended look. And going with the direction of the hair on top of his nose, in between those two eyes. And I keep all this hair here as much as we can. So not scissoring that off. Once I've scissored out in front of his eyes, I'm actually just going to brush a third of his fringe forward. So not all of it, just probably about that much. So just gently combing that. And you can either use curves or straights. I just prefer straights because it gives a more definite line. And I'm just using the tips and just coming through on a 45-degree angle just to trim that fringe. And I trim roughly about 1 centimetre past the corner of his eye, so this area. And you may need to just comb out any little hairs to make sure you've got them all, so no little hairs are going into his eyes. And constantly comb that area down just to cross-check all your work. And his other eye. So again, 1 centimetre past the corner, the outer corner of the eye. And comb it all down just to cross check we've got everything, so no little hairs are going back into his eyes. And if you notice, I'm just using the tips, so I've got that little bit more control with the tips. So when grooming our Bichon head, we would like the appearance to be round from the front and round from the side, and if he'll put his head down, and round from the top. So that's our appearance. So we can change the size, so he'll have a smaller Bichon face because he is a little bit older and he is missing some teeth. So I don't like any little bits of hair getting caught in his mouth. So I'm going to begin by combing all this hair down, and remember we've clipped up to that jawline. And using my curved scissors, I'm then going to head towards his ear. So we're starting our round head. just roughing in our shape. To achieve this round Bichon head, we need to keep the hair in front of that ear. As soon as we take that out, then we expose the break between the cheek hair and then the ear hair. So we need to keep that hair so it's nice and full. And just trimming up towards the top of the ear. And still trying to keep in mind that we're trying to keep a nice round head. So I'm actually not scissoring the hair on his cheek just yet. And his other side. And a good tip is to really comb out your work. So once you've scissored it, comb it out and then scissor the shape again. I prefer around his jawline quite short, so no hair is going to go back into his mouth because he is missing some teeth. And he does get a little bit messy as he's got older. Now I'm going to switch to my blenders, and this will just soften everything. And I'm still just working on that front profile, so I haven't moved to my side profile yet. Once I'm happy with my round head on my front profile, I'm now going to move to my side profile. So coming in from the start of his nose and just rounding off his muzzle into his ear and then back around. So just creating that nice round circle. So using my comb to comb everything out. And I'm going to use my blenders again. And again, I like him to have a nice short muzzle. So you don't need to take your dog's muzzle this short. And then following behind that ear. Because we've still got our crest through his neck area. So this is how short I'm going on his muzzle. So I like to just comb everything out, and then with my blenders, just blend in that muzzle with the rest of the roundness. So I still like him to have that Bichon-y look, but it is really hard for him with the missing teeth that he does have because he is that little bit older. He's an older gentleman. So constantly watching the side profile and the front profile at the same time. So combing all that hair out so we don't miss any hairs, and then using our blenders to blend in our muzzle. And again, you might want to do the dog that you're grooming the muzzle a little bit longer. I just prefer his muzzle quite short. So remembering that you want roundness from the side and roundness from the front. So when you're grooming the dog that you're grooming, you would just leave a little bit more muzzle so you get a nice round line through, up and around. Just going to comb up the hairs on the top of his nose, and with my blenders, scissoring downwards, so I'm blending this in and just tipping that area. And the other side. If we scissor upwards, we may take too much hair, and if we scissor with the grain, it will actually blend the coat really, really nicely. You can take up in their jawline a little bit shorter if you prefer. So just comb all that hair down using your blenders or your scissors, coming in and around. Just keeps it nice and neat and tidy. And scissor that transitional line in where we've clipped to where we've scissored. And once we're happy with the shape of his head, I'm now going to scissor his crest in. So what I'm going to do is comb all this out and then pop his head backwards and then just scissor straight down into his withers. So from the middle of his skull, just come straight down into his withers. And then that gives us our nice crest. Happy with that shape, we can just blend all that in with our blenders. Just blending in our scissor work to our clipper work on our neck area. So we've scissored in that crest and we just want to blend it into the areas that we're clipped on these shoulders and on that neck. It's nice and neat and tidy. I'm happy with how his little head has turned out. So So Jamie is all finished and he's feeling pretty good. He looks back to his normal self. If you guys have any questions, pop them in the comments below, and please like and subscribe to our channel. And until next time, happy grooming.